Is it even a secret anymore that Disney is trying to take over the world? Well, at least they're trying to take over the entertainment industry, anyway. Obviously, they have their feature films, but they've also got their theme parks, their god-awful television channel, their god-awful radio station, and now they've got Broadway. Like, really. They've even created their own little branch in the company that handles all of their stage productions. There are so many now. This trend in trying to milk yet more money from the studio's most successful franchises started in the early 90s when they put Beauty and the Beast on stage. And you know, it did, well, it did okay. It was nominated for a lot of Tonys, but the only one that it actually won was for costume design. Yeah, put a kid in a cart and stick his head through a cup. Here's your Tony! The point is, this show started a thing for the Disney company. Particularly in the thousands, they started cranking out stage adaptations of all their biggest movies. This has worked better in some cases than in others. For example, I've always been a little mystified that it took 40 years to get Mary Poppins on stage. That one seemed like an obvious choice for musicalization.
Childhood is a step in time, parenthood's the same. Never miss the chance to get it right.
But then they turned around and tried to do shows like Tarzan. Let's be nice and say that this one was weak and kind of weird. Although really just the most offensive thing about it is just the fact that dreadlocks are the least attractive hairstyle that a human being can try to pull off. The thing is that sometimes the source material is just incapable of being rendered onto a stage. Theater is a totally different medium from film, with completely different rules. And you can do a lot with them, but you cannot do everything. But, you know, some movies do actually kind of lend themselves to stage adaptation. And some Disney movies have even inspired some pretty decent Broadway shows over the years. What can I say? We just love throwing our money at these Disney productions. So, with that in mind, let's take a look at Disney's most recent attempt to grab a Tony. The Little Mermaid.
The seaweed is always greener in somebody else's lake. You dream about going up there, but that is a big mistake. Just look at the world around you, right here on the ocean floor. Such wonderful things around you. What more is you looking for?
I don't even know where to start with this one. Just, what even is half of this stuff? Why are there googly eyes glued on Sebastian's hat? And where are his claws? Why does he have hands? They gave Lumiere candlesticks in Beauty and the Beast, why couldn't they give Sebastian claws? And what are with these dead, soulless legs hanging off of his jacket? And Ariel, oh my god, what is with her tail? She looks like something they'd give me on the side at a Japanese restaurant. And is she wearing Heelys under those bell bottoms? And what even are half these dancers supposed to be? Are they fish? They have fish on their heads, but then Is that guy using a starfish as a guitar? And what with the spinning thing, spinning and oh my god. I can't. I need a minute.
A few moments later.
Okay. Here's the thing. They already did this show successfully on Broadway. Except it was called The Lion King. Maybe this sounds kind of weird, but like, let's go back to the beginning and I'll show you what I mean. Both The Lion King and The Little Mermaid were made during the period known as the Disney Renaissance. This was when they were really pumping out those animated films. If you're somewhere around my age, then most any Disney movie that you have any nostalgia for was made during this period. Although, nostalgia aside, you can kind of tell the objective quality of each of these films by whether or not the main character's I Want song is horribly vague or not.
I will find my way. I can go the distance.
To where?
When will my reflection show who I am inside?
And who is that exactly?
Why do all my dreams stand just around the river bend? Just around the river bend?
I don't even know. But The Lion King and The Little Mermaid were both quite good as films. Well, at least they were important, both being landmarks for Disney, with The Little Mermaid being the beginning of the Disney Renaissance and The Lion King being, arguably, the height of it. They're also both coming-of-age stories, although The Lion King definitely has a better plot to work with, being Hamlet with lions and all. Little Mermaid is just the story of a 16-year-old girl who fell in love with some guy she met one time, so she sells her voice to an evil drag queen to get a vagina. Anyway, the unprecedented success of The Lion King had a lot to do with why it got a stage adaptation, as it was only the second Disney film to get one. But conceptually, it had to be tricky. Beauty and the Beast, at least, had human, or humanoid, characters. Lion King was all animals. So they did a smart thing. They brought in this whole African culture aesthetic and built the show's look and sound around that. And it worked! Crazy as a stage musical based on The Lion King must have sounded at the time, it ended up coming together. Even with all the complicated puppets and the weird costumes and the people dressed as grass. It just works somehow. And it scored Disney a Tony for Best Musical. So what does all of this have to do with The Little Mermaid? Well, look at it. Look at the over-the-top costumes, the emphasis on spectacle. Lion King is Disney's most successful Broadway show to date, so it kind of makes sense that they try to copy its hyper-stylistic design in trying to adapt another show which, conceptually, would be just as difficult to pull off. The thing is, the weirdness in Lion King works because the show creates a context for its visuals by coloring everything with African influence. Little Mermaid is just a muddled mess of stuff. It's like the show is saying to you, look over here, here's some stuff. And look at the stuff we designed for this guy to wear. Just look at all the cool stuff we made. Isn't all this stuff cool? Do you like stuff? 'Cause The Little Mermaid has stuff. And stuff doesn't have to be, by definition, bad. A few of the more spectacle-oriented moments of the show actually look kind of cool. It's just that a lot of The Little Mermaid stuff doesn't really make a whole lot of sense regarding what they're trying to adapt. Take Ursula, for example.
They come flocking to my cauldron, crying spells, Ursula please, and I help them. Yes, I do.
Here's a good example of how not to try to adapt a cartoon character into a stage character. I mean, just look at her. If you showed me a picture of this costume without giving me any context, I'm not even sure that I'd be able to tell you that it's supposed to be Ursula at all. Who did this hair? Ursula doesn't have hair like that. And why is she played by a skinny chick? And why are Flotsam and Jetsam bright green? And I don't like to pick on specific performances when I talk about this stuff, but I kind of think this had to do with a severe case of miscasting and misdirection more than anything.
Pathetic, poor unfortunate souls, in pain, in need. This one longing to be thinner, that one wants to get the girl, and do I help them? Yes, indeed.
Just... no. No, that's not Ursula. This is Ursula.
Come on, you poor unfortunate soul! Go ahead! Make your choice!
Huge difference. Like, huge character-defining difference.
Life's full of tough choices, isn't it?
I've heard the theory that The Little Mermaid was doomed to failure simply because it's impossible to pull off an underwater aesthetic on a stage, and I kind of used to agree with that. But then I kind of saw it done decently. And here's the weird thing. Disney did it.
Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, life isn't all that grim. Just keep swimming and just keep swimming. What do? We swim. Right.
Yeah, this exists. Finding Nemo, the musical, is an attraction at the Animal Kingdom in Disney World. It's 40 minutes long, features original songs, and it's not terrible. I mean, here's an example of a show that has absolutely no right to be anything near decent. It's Finding Nemo as a musical on a stage. This should not work at all, ever. I remember standing in line to see it, and I had the lowest possible expectations. But then, I don't know, the thing starts, and there's all these clever puppets, and the remarkably not awful songs, and I quite enjoyed it. I'm not saying that this should be adapted into a full show for Broadway or anything, because I certainly don't think this could maintain a 2-act show. I'm not even saying that The Little Mermaid would have worked if it were more like this. I'm just saying that The Little Mermaid did not have to, by definition, be awful. And maybe it wouldn't have been if it had been a little bit less this.
Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think my collection's complete?
Why is that fork so big? Is it so the people in the cheap seats can see that it's a fork? Are we sacrificing what little realism this universe has for the people in the cheap seats? And I don't even want to get into the original songs they wrote for this thing. Yeah, this song already happened, except it was called Part of Your World, and it was better. So, in the end, what did we learn? Mostly we learned that you can't just throw shit up on a stage, brand it with a recognizable name, and expect people who love the source material to forgive the fact that none of the stylistic choices work. Because that's really just what it comes down to with this one. The actors and the music, at least the music that they didn't write specifically for the show, are not horrible. They're just completely hidden behind the terrible direction, god-awful costumes, and utterly confused vision that some crazy person had for this thing. It's really little wonder that this thing lasted only about 7 minutes on Broadway before they just shut it down. But At least Disney couldn't possibly make a stage adaptation worse than this. What?
But I'll be done seeing about everything when I see an elephant fly.